Look, I think everybody has a right to run. I think Jim's better prepared in the process to be speaker.
The Labor Department high-stakes September payroll report is projected to show that hiring increased 170,000 last month and that the unemployment rate ticked down 3%. The oil market dropped from the 187,000 gain in August and the 271,000 monthly average recorded over the previous 12 months. The Federal Reserve is closely watching a report for evidence that the labor market is finally softening after months of surprising policy, and also as this, policymakers try to wrestle inflation under control. Although the consumer price index has actually cooled from a peak of 9%, it's well above the Fed's 2% target and 11% as well. There is a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI, and SDI. We have a ton of news, folks, that you guys have to know. First of all, check deposits are being made in more states. New checks worth $1,000 are being sent out to eligible Americans, and some officials have pointed out to these recurring relief payments that could be actually deducted and reduced. The Biden administration and lawmakers are also having discussions on government spending cuts. These spending cuts are actually crucial for people to know about. Nearly every Alaskan will receive a $1,300 check starting this week, and their annual share from the earnings of the state's oil fund. Some use the money for extra, like vacations, but others, particularly in high-cost states like Alaska, where jobs and housing are limited, rely on it for actually home heating, fuel, or snow machines that are critical for transportation. Squabbling over all the oil check size has resulted in many stalled negotiations, and the Senate proposal aimed at resolving the dividend debate this year fizzled with no agreement. As Alaska struggles to attract workers and stem a year-long trend of people moving away, some residents are wondering how the dividend fits into the future of a state where no personal income tax is actually happening. This year, the state legislature approved a one-time $200 million funding boost for schools in response to pleas from administrators who are being forced to cut programs or increase class sizes. But the Governor Mike actually cut the funding in half, and even House Speaker Kathy Tilton said that adequately funding education is important, but so is ensuring that money is being used most effectively. Residents have received a check known as the Permanent Fund Dividend since 1982, roughly 6 years after voters in the early days of the development created a permanent fund to preserve some of the oil wealth for future generations. The Senate advanced proposals this year calling for 75% of oil fund earnings draws to government and 75% of checks as well. But upon assuming office in January, Joe Biden aimed to alleviate the economic crisis, and the Biden administration is in tandem with congressional Democrats and the Federal Reserve's approval choose to sustain elevated government expenditures. Former president has said this about the fourth stimulus check. They want it passed now. Over 200 lawmakers are expanding the relief to millions of Americans, and Democrats and Republicans are beginning to discuss a negotiation that could send this to you. But as congressional Republicans increase discussions on social programs, a trio of Democrats in the House have reintroduced legislation that would make permanent the expanded multi-child tax credit. Even the American Family Act has been reintroduced by Representative Rosa DeLauro and Susan DeBlain. But the bill has been backed by over 200 House Democrats. The bill would expand the permanency of the expanded child tax credit as established in the American Rescue Plan. The expanded child tax credit would be expired at the end of the year, even as inflation continued to affect millions of Americans. The recently proposed bill would continue $300 monthly checks for children aged 6 and younger, while expanding the maximum credit to $250 per month and $3,000 annually. It is up from $2,000 under the previous policy. The bill also provides the full credit to children that have been left behind previously by revoking a rule limiting the refundable portion to $1,400 a year. It also eliminates the earnings requirement that previously excluded about a third of eligible children from the full credit. Representative DeLauro's office has noted that the expanded child tax credit assisted more than 60 million children and lifted nearly 4 million people out of poverty. And when they expanded and improved the child tax credit under the American Rescue Plan, it provided unprecedented economic security for families. The most recent monthly payments have helped people pay their bills and keep nutritious food on the table, afford school supplies, as well as manage mortgage or rent payments. Several Democrats have made it clear that this credit would be an investment to children and families. Advocacy groups have shown support for the bill's reintroduction. Even executive director of the Institute of Taxation said, "We are thrilled to see lawmakers prioritizing tax credits for the low and the middle income." The American Family Act comes amid Republicans' proposals to change the programs, including slashing funds for rental assistance and education programs. Folks, still, 2 states are ready to significantly ramp under the financial incentives for this bill to adopt renewable energy and EV vehicles under new laws that mimic the federal clean energy tax credits. The Minnesota lawmakers recently agreed on a $2 billion budget that dedicates hundreds of millions of dollars to cutting greenhouse gas. And what's clear about this is that Minnesota is going all in on this. About 900 million people, $900 million in Minnesota's next 2-year budget will pay for a tax credit. And because the credit is situational, not all families will be getting the stimulus money, only certain households.
You know, first quarter of the 20th century, the poet Carl Sandburg described Chicago as a city of big shoulders. A city of big shoulders. He was describing the big shoulders of a working class American town who were building this city. At the same time, building the middle class. I'm here in Chicago today for the first quarter of the 21st century to talk about the economic vision for this country. The economy that grows the economy from the middle out and the bottom up instead of just the top down. When that happens, everybody does well. The wealthy still do it, everybody does well. The poor have a ladder up, and the wealthy still do well. We all do well. This vision is a fundamental break from the economic theory that has failed. Much of the technology and machinery that is used to make these chips was designed and produced in the United States. And by uniting our skills and our technological know-how, it allows the production of chips that are critical to both our countries and are essential sectors of our global economy.
There is a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits that you have to know, folks, so continue watching this video. You definitely don't want to miss out on this. Now, first of all, Americans are finally receiving their tax refund checks from the federal government, and this could mean several big, huge changes. Tax refund represents a source of joy for millions of households, and this year the average check is about $3,000. Now, according to latest data, refunds are also used to pay down bills, start an emergency fund, or splurge on something special. Refund checks may be pleasant to receive, but they aren't free money from the government. Instead, they represent reimbursements from the IRS for taxes that workers overpaid throughout the year. Last year, that amounted to $360 billion in overpaid income, with 2 in 3 taxpayers receiving a check from the IRS. And because of the financial stakes, tax professionals and economists have engaged in a long-running debate about whether it's financially wise to get a tax refund or to have a close to a net zero tax return and get nothing back from the IRS. On one side of the debate, many experts cautioned that tax refunds represent interest-free loans that taxpayers give to the federal government. But on the flip side, other financial professionals say it may be better for some taxpayers to receive a refund because it essentially provides an enforced savings plan, which can be helpful for people who have trouble saving money. And according to experts surveyed by CBS News, it's a financially wise choice to get your money in your paycheck throughout the year. As of February 24th, the average tax refund was $3,000. That is a $3,000 interest-free loan that you are giving to the government. That is about $250 a month extra that you could add to your budget. That's similar to the monthly payments that many families with children received in 2021. This was money that was credited, reducing poverty